Today is December the 6th of 2023, and today we are here with Ryan Zink. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You called me because you're from Lubbock, Texas, and are interested in possibly running for Congress.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I've decided to run for Congress over in Lubbock with my life story. I think that now's the perfect opportunity to go ahead and jump in, throw my hat in the ring.
So let's give a little background on you. Where'd you grow up, and what do you do? What did you do for a living? And bring us up to the present day as to why you're now thinking about running for Congress.
Well, I'm 34. Like I said, I live in Lubbock, Texas. I grew up around the Amarillo and border areas. So I'm West Texas guy. I've been here majority of my life. For a brief portion, we lived in Dallas when I was little, so I've seen a little bit of the big city, but mostly just home is West Texas, and I now live over in Lubbock. I've been there for probably about 10 years. Um, I was an OSHA safety officer up until February 4th of 2021, where the DOJ and the Biden administration decided to make normal, everyday Americans turn into terrorists, and I was arrested for being at the Capitol on January 6th. So, I was never really a political person per se. My father is also running for Congress in Arizona with the Republican Party. He's in Congressional District 3. Um, and I was working for my dad on January 6th. It started out as, just another day. Dad was needing some help on his campaign. I was a media strategist. I would been going to school for that. I was actually a senior until I got kicked out after my arrest. Um, and I went to go help him, on his campaign, just to, lend a hand, take some videos and some pictures for him. And everything with January 6th happened. And the last 3 years of my life has just been incredible, to see just how low and how dark corruption actually runs inside of our country. And, on January 6th, I never went in the building. I never assaulted anyone. I never moved a barricade. I never destroyed anything. And yet the DOJ still came after me and they removed my First Amendment uh, speech away from me to where, we didn't have the right to protest a stolen election. And I'm telling you right now, the reason I threw my hat into the ring is because no one from my area besides Ronnie Jackson here in Amarillo, he has made some statements, um, in support of finding the truth. And the reason that I'm here is because nobody has stepped up. There's not a voice for January 6th. If they'll do this to me, they'll do this to any family for any reason. They can make you out to be a terrorist. They can make you out to be anything that they want you to be, as long as it fits their narrative. And that's why I'm jumping in here.
But walk us through what happened that day. You just showed up to help your dad. You were taking some video. Uh, you went to the rally for Trump, right? On January the 6th, he was going to have a big rally showing support for President Trump. And for, if I remember correctly, that's when the vote was going to take place in Congress because there was a lot of allegations of fraud in
Yes.
various states. And I think Paxton had filed a lawsuit against Pennsylvania. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that I don't know that that had been heard yet or decided. Do you know?
I don't think it had been. I don't think that it had been decided, but I know that there was some talk about it.
I mean, it was ongoing. That was all happening about that time. And I think a lot of people believed that Vice President Pence had the authority and the responsibility to, when you have a big concern about the election, it's his responsibility to kick it back, to make that decision
Right.
and to kick it back to the states.
Right.
And how many people are there supporting Trump? Hundreds of thousands.
So I paid a guy to review some of the footage that I had, and it's 3 million.
3 million people
3 million people is what I
showed
have
up
on
to
my count.
support Trump's concern that there was anomalies in the election,
Yes.
and also to encourage Vice President Pence to do his constitutional duty to kick that back to the state legislatures to investigate fraud and to choose proper electors, if I'm not mistaken. And if
Yes.
they couldn't resolve it that way, then it would end up going to the House of Representatives.
Yes. So that is actually the reason that my dad wanted to go. So I, unbeknownst to a lot of people, my dad worked in sports medicine for years and years. And he was he's been a number of things through the years. He's actually kind of a jack of all trades. Um, and a diving instructor, the lead of a biology department for a university. And I had actually been hit by a drunk driver, and had injured my neck and shoulder, and I was in a lapse period between my insurance. So I'd actually gone to Phoenix with him so that he could treat me, because he's just as good as any physical therapist or massage therapist that's out there. So I'd gone up to get the treatment, and he decides one day, he tells me, he says, Ryan, I think that there's going to be history that's made in Washington D.C. this week. I think that for the one of the first times, or the first time, uh, that we're going to see the vote come back to the states. And he said, I'm going. Well, at that time, we had seen large targeted efforts at Trump supporters that were being attacked, like walking to their cars, just for wearing a MAGA hat, that those kind of things. And I told my dad, I said, it's probably not a good idea for you to go alone. You should probably, get somebody to go with you. And then he throws up the infamous question that it's the moment that everything in my life changed, when he asked me if I wanted to go. And at the time, I'm thinking, okay, free trip to DC, get to hang out with my dad, do some media stuff. That way, whenever I get back into school and get rolling again, when I'm not going to be injured or hindered by my injuries, this will be some great experience. This will probably, I might be able to, work with, some of the higher news agencies. I thought this was going to be like a portfolio thing for me. Boy, was I wrong. Um, but we go there for that. We went to the rally. I was never actually allowed to go into the rally because I had all of my media stuff. I've got a backpack, laptop, camera, cell phone, SD cards, cables, charge ports. Pretty much anything that a good media person's going to have for on the spot interviews and things like that. And the Secret Service wouldn't let us in to go listen to Trump speak. So we actually never even got to hear, him or anyone else speak down at, the Freedom Plaza over there by the Washington Monument. And, seeing that many people, I mean, I've got pictures where I stand on like a little pedestal and I take a picture all the way like from like where the entrance, of the speaking area was. There's still, you know, thousands of people behind me, and you look, and it's just all the way to the Washington up there. And so that was kind of how it got started. Was that right there? I couldn't have told you any of that on January 6th. What was going on. I was just there to support my dad. Wasn't really into politics. Wasn't I've I don't come from a political family. I do now, but I've kind of been. I'm here. Like, I never wanted to get started in politics, but now that I see, what evil looks like, here I am.
Yeah, people don't realize it affects everything. And when we
Everything.
don't pay attention to it, then we get the wrong people.
Absolutely.
So we have to get real people to stand up and run for these positions
Yes.
that will represent the people, not rule them.
And have a voice, and not be scared to speak up, to say this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. And I feel like there's not enough of that right now.
So what happened after the Secret Service wouldn't let you in. You couldn't get in to hear Trump. So what happens then?
Well, we had to take a couple of breaks. So the good Lord did heal my dad. My dad battled years and years with football injuries. He had CTE real bad, and he used to get headaches. Well, God told him that He was going to send him to Congress one night in a prayer, and the Lord healed him. And when I say that the Lord healed him, I mean we were making funeral arrangements in December. Like when I was up there, it was supposed to be uh, like November, December. He was still early December. He was still having headaches, and then like on Christmas Eve, the Lord healed him and said, I will send you to Congress to help represent my people. And so that was, seeing that faith, that strength that came, and God fulfilling His promise and taking his headaches away was huge. But we were still recovering. I was hurt on all different kinds of medicines, and so we start to walk our way towards the Capitol, and it takes a while for us to get there. And then Dad had an interview with the Epic Times on the west side of the Capitol. So we were over there and we walked around the building, kind of checking things out. Then we decided to head over to the east side, which is over by the Supreme Court, um, on the east side of the building. And we were standing over there for a long time. And this is when everything started to change. Was when we started getting over towards like 1:30. There was no violence. It was a very active, cheery environment. There was people singing, people praying. We talked to a bunch of people that day. Samoans for Trump, blacks for Trump, um, the former Chinese CCP party for Trump. That was probably the most interesting conversation of the day. Was listening to the horror stories that they talked about from the realms of communism, and then we get over to by the visitor center entrances, and we set up over there along the south side or I'm sorry, on the east side of the barricade. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see there's a commotion over to the left hand side, but we can't really tell what's happening because there's hundreds of people in between this short distance that we're at, and you see uh, the barricades start opening up, and then to the right hand side, over where people that are following along with the J6 stuff, like where Ashley Babbitt and the others were let through by undercover police officers that were telling people to come up through the crowd, you can see there's hundreds of people working their way into the plaza that is over there. And so I looked over at my dad and I was like, what is going on? And he's like, I don't know. Well, at that time, just before this, on a big megaphone to our left, there are Capitol Police officers that are talking to multiple individuals, and they're telling them, we're going to let you guys in. We're talking to our management right now, and we're going to see what we can do about getting you up and getting you guys upstairs and inside. And this is all stuff that I presented at my trial, by the way. It's available on the transcripts and everything. So at this point, once the barricades have opened up, everyone in the entire crowd has heard all of this. So this is a narrative that you're not going to see from mainstream media because they don't want to show it. But this ripples through the crowd, then the barricades open up, people start going through. We actually had a conversation about it. We sat there and said, like, what are we gonna do? Like, do we go inside? And I was like, no, I don't think they're probably gonna let us inside. They're probably gonna let us in here because there's permits over here. So
So yo, I thought they were basically giving you a tour of the cap.
there now see the common misconception that's not talked about is that there were permits for the entire grounds of the Capitol on January 6th. And and the DOJ tries to deny this, but this has actually come out in several cases. As time has progressed, particularly like with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, about like the timestamps and the accuracy of these permits that were scheduled there. And these permits are for First Amendment secession, so it's protesting. And so when you see that, and just the way that the misrepresentation is like that there was no anything that was supposed to be there, but yet you have police officers that are telling you we're going to let you up. I never thought that they were going to let us inside the building. I never thought that, and I didn't go in the building. And but when they're telling you they're letting you into an area that is you're kind of like, okay, because this is a uniformed officer. This isn't like somebody that's like, hey, I'm a cop. They said it's fine. We could go. This is a uniformed police officer
Hmm.
working, that's on the other side of the barricades that is announcing this stuff to hundreds of people, thousands of people that are in our area. And so at
So you're
that,
like being invited in.
well, and yeah, and then there was another police officer who he actually wound up testifying against me in court and lied on the stand about it. He's waving through people through the barricades, and in his
Hmm.
testimony, he says, "Well, I'm waving at other officers." Well, there's no other officers in front of him. You see him. He turns one way and
Well,
waves this way.
so it must not have been a too rowdy of a crowd if he's sitting there waving at other officers.
And see, at there, I mean, but like, rowdy, like any time that there's thousands of people somewhere, or even hundreds of people, like there's going to be noise, and you're not going to be able to like orient and tell really what's going on just because of the sheer commotion that's
Yeah.
involved in the area. And then, whenever you have these officers saying this, there's hundreds of people coming this way, the barricades are now open, you've got a police officer that's in front of you, waving you to go through the barricades. Even Vivek Ramaswamy, posted this to his Twitter, or X now, today, showing, he said that it's, starting to look more and more like a cover up and like a setup. And that police officer, gets on the stand, and my attorney asked him, he said, "Do you think that your actions in any way could have misled someone, or that they could have interpreted you, wrong on what your intentions were, even if you'd been waving at another police officer?" And he was like, "No, no, absolutely." So, you know, then we start going up, um, start heading up to there, and when I say heading up, I mean like we're walking.
Well, I guess the question would be, why didn't that officer say stop?
They never did. See, that's the
If
thing.
they didn't say stop, don't come through here, it's basically an open invitation.
That's I mean, apparently not
That's
to
what a
not to the
normal person would
DOJ. It
think.
doesn't, they don't see it that
Well,
way.
after the
But
fact.
there was never a dispersal order given. There was never a dispersal order given. I don't know if you know this, but there was a loudspeaker system at the United States Capitol that can be heard from like 50 blocks away if they crank it all the way up. It was never utilized. And then I mean the unlimited amount of questions that I still have. So I've been in this since February 4th at 4:18 a.m. of 2021, and I have more questions now that are still unanswered, and I'm a defendant who's already been to trial. And it's like it's overwhelming, the amount of information that is still withheld, and it would be perfectly great if like people like the J6 committee would stop deleting 4.4 terabytes of interviews and things like that, because Brady violations is apparently pretty serious unless it's DOJ. But
They don't have to follow the law.
no, they don't. And see, and that's the problem. That's another reason that I'm running is accountability. Um, but yeah, so moving right along, we get up there, make some videos. I'm talking about what's going on around me. We're storming the Capitol at a snail's pace with my injured father, walking walking up there um to the side, and then a crowd forms at the base of the stairs. There's no pushing, no shoving that I can see. There's probably, I don't know, 150, 200 people in front of us. So it's not like I'm like, we're storming the Capitol. And
So
then,
you're like moseying up to
yeah,
the Capitol.
just making my way up there to the steps, standing at the back, taking pictures, taking videos. And then the Capitol police officers, they open up the steps, and everybody goes up there. So me and my dad, I follow my dad up. He decided that he wanted to go up. I'm not in charge. I'm the media guy, so I follow right behind him. We go up on the stairs, and this is when things got a little weird for the day. There was a man by the name of Hunter Allen Empty that he decides that he's going to jump up on the ledge of the window to the right hand side of the Columbus doors that weigh 2 tons each, are electronically magnet sealed and are impenetrable, yet somehow those doors made their way open on January 6th. But, anyways, to the right side of that window, uh, or of that door, he decides that he's going to jump up and he starts kicking and punching out the windows. And I got all of this on camera. So I started filming, and he is taken into custody. They knock him off the ledge with a riot shield, and they tackle him to the ground, and they place him in handcuffs. I don't see any issue with that. He's breaking the law,
Yep.
and
Damaging property.
at this point is when some of the crowd started to turn on the Capitol police officers. But I come from a family and from a party of law and order, and that's not how things work with us. And I, even as injured and fragile state as I was then, I yelled at those guys. And all this is on video too. I actually have this on my Give Send Go, and I'll provide the link to whoever wants it. But I turn and I tell these guys, I'm like, leave them alone. They're just doing their jobs. He's breaking the law. They're doing their jobs. Leave them alone. And it's clear as day. And that crowd that was around us that had just got this impression in their mind of like, oh, well, it's them versus us or whatever. It just knocked all the air out. It completely just squashed everything. Everything got quiet for a couple of seconds, then the noise came and stepped back in because you remember there's still thousands and thousands of people that are still coming to the Capitol. And so that happens. Well, then I walk up to a Capitol police officer by the name of Benjamin Fluke, and I ask him, "How can I help you?" And he turns to me and he says, "Take pictures and videos. Take pictures." I said, "Okay." And that's what I did. I started taking pictures. I started taking videos. He was preoccupied, tied up. I'm sure it was kind of overwhelming seeing that, kind of reaction from some of the people um, when Mr. Empty was arrested. And so we started talking to another police officer to the right hand side. My dad gives him a business card and tells him, like, hey, my name's Jeff Zink. I'm running for Congress. This is my son Ryan. He's my media campaign strategist. We got all of that exchange on video. If you would like for us to testify or write an affidavit, we'd be more than happy to comply. We would love to, assist you in your investigation, whatever we can do. Here's my phone number. If you contact me, you need his stuff, you can do it. I introduce myself. He starts telling us, hey, thank you. That's the kind of thing. We start talking to other people that were around us about what was going on. I saw Alex Jones. I took pictures of him from the porch as he was starting to make his way around the east side. Um, I'm doing my job. I'm doing what Officer Fluke had asked me to do. He specifically gave me instructions to stay up there, not a dispersal order. He never asked me. So I did what I was supposed to be doing for him and for my dad. Great B-roll footage for what we had going on because we had no idea anything like this. And so we're talking to this other police officer, and this is when the day turned. And I think that everything from this point forward, after this, it's all been a cover up. Is when Ashley Babbitt gets murdered, and Officer Bird shoots her. We can hear the shots from inside. The police officer that the DOJ has refused to identify. They legitimately would not give us his name so that he could testify in court and we could question him. Tells us, like, hey, there's an active shooter, something's going on, we don't really know what it is right now at the moment. Why don't you guys come stand over here behind us? This is a little more shielded. I think if there is a shooter, it's probably from that side of the building. So if you guys stand over here, since y'all been helping us, this is what's going on. So we go behind the police line. These police officers give up their backs to us. Obviously, I was a domestic terrorist threat that was, perfectly capable of standing behind the back of a police officer. And we just hang out there for a few minutes. And I'm listening to the radio. I'm posting stuff on Facebook. Like there's a Facebook post they tried to use against me in court that says literally inside the Capitol, shots fired. There's a fire on the floor, that kind of thing. Well, I'm getting all of this out of this police officer's radio that they won't identify. And then they're trying to say that I went into the building based upon that, which never happened. So at that point is when we finally see the first remnants of what's going on inside, but we still don't know what's happening inside of the building and some of the other areas, like in the West Tunnel and all that. We see a call comes out on the radio, and that police officer tells us, "Hey, Muriel Bowser has put a curfew in place for 6 p.m. They're about to start clearing everybody out of here. Thank you. very much for what you've done today. I really appreciate it. We'll be in touch when to get the video from you guys. If there's anything that you guys need, you can just contact the U.S. Capitol Police Office. Here's, you know, some contact information or whatever. But we actually never made it out with the contact information. Somehow or another, between our flights, it got lost somewhere, and so we decided we're going to start leaving. Well, then we see an injured police officer come out, and like I said, my dad has worked in sports medicine. I went to paramedic school, but decided that it wasn't for me. So we have a little bit of knowledge between the two of us, and we tried to help this officer who came out. His face is orange, so it looks like he'd gotten to like some OC spray, uh, something like that. And he's like, I can't see, my eyes are burning, and my shoulder hurts. And my dad turns to the other officer and says, hey, like I've got medical training, I can assist him. He looks like he's really injured. I can take a look at him if you want. And then so they declined that, but we asked. I was like, hey, does anybody have water? And then it dawns on me, oh, I've got water. So I take my backpack off, drop it to the ground, pull out the water, but it's flavored water, so that's not going to do anything but probably add to the burn, that's coming from this. Well, the guy next to me winds up having like a huge, big 64-ounce bottle of water or whatever. So I walked that over to the police officers, and then we leave and we start heading down the steps. And I turned to my dad and I looked and I said, you know what? I want to get some pictures of what's going on inside. Like, these doors are open. Obviously, they're letting people in. Like, let's look and see. And for the first time was this was the first time that I saw violence on Zoom. As I'm looking down the hallway with my zoomed in lens, I'm standing on the pillar outside of the east doors, and I look down the hallway and I see somebody strike a police officer. And I turned to my dad in the heat of the moment and I was like, we need to get out right now. And he's like, what's going on? And I was like, we're leaving. Let's go. Like, I start telling him, I'm like, they are beating up some people in there. Like, I'm not really sure what's going on, but there's bodies flying everywhere. We're leaving. This isn't why we came. He's like, nope, that's not why we're here. We're leaving. That's it. Like, it's over. And we start making our way back around to get over to the metro, which is on the west side. And when we get around to the other side, I'm telling you, it was a sight to see. I know that heaven won't come close uh, to this. I mean, like, it was amazing. Heaven's got to be so beautiful. The sight that I saw that day was as earthly beautiful as you could see. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans that had come over there, and they're all standing around. There's not really anything happening yet. Like, we got out of there like just after the tear gas started being rained on into the crowd, and made our way to the metro probably about 3:30 ish, and then apparently everything kicks off after that. So about 3:30, we're not even like at the Capitol. We're like leaving, but I mean, you can't imagine seeing the number of people that were out there. It was incredible.
Hmm. So what happened after you left? Do you know?
So after we left, we went to go stay with some family. They lived in Upper Marlboro area, Virginia, and we stayed the night. Got up, went back to the Capitol the next day. I took some pictures of the damage while we were there. I walked around. I was thanking the Capitol police officers and the military that had come in uh, over there for their service for the time. My dad was doing the same thing. Um, and then my grandmother had her mom used to live in D.C. for a while, so I stopped by that house and took some pictures of it so that she could see it. We sadly she passed away in the middle of this huge life altering event that I've had. She's the one that gave up the first amount of money until my mom could take out a second mortgage on her home, um, so that I could have attorneys that wound up getting me out of the gulag. But she got to see those pictures before she died, so I was grateful for that. And then we went back to Phoenix. Um, I'm still stranded in Phoenix. I think I forgot to mention that my truck was broke down at this time. My turbo caught on fire, and it was right during the swing of COVID, and parts for trucks aren't readily available. Whenever you've got a scam of global proportions. going on, and it just, I can't leave. We're sitting here and we're talking. We get back, we show the footage. I contact the media. I tell them, I tell the news station there in Phoenix, like, hey, we were there. My dad's running for Congress. Like, we have some great footage. We were working with the police department. I don't know if I can show you some of this stuff because there's an active police investigation. So I'm doing what I think, is going to help. And so 2 days goes by, 3 days goes by, a week goes by. I still don't hear anything. And then it comes back around and I'm like, okay, well, I've got to get home. Like, I have to make money. Yeah, I'm on workman's comp, but workman's comp don't pay the bills. And so I get back to Lubbock, still haven't heard anything. February 3rd comes around. I'm not feeling any better. I tried to, go get a workout in with a friend, kind of rehab my shoulder and my neck. Went out, had something to eat, and I went to bed. And this is the night that everything changed. Um, I went to bed relatively early that night, and the next thing that I know, the front of my home, the door is being blown off the hinges by a 12-foot battering ram attached to a huge green FBI SWAT truck. And at first, I think I'm dreaming. I'm not really sure, think if this is real. And then, because I don't hear anything, I just hear the front door get blown off. I lived in kind of a rough neighborhood back then. Um, and so at first, I was thinking, this is probably a break. And so, I get up, I'm ready to defend myself in case it's a break in, and that's when I hear the helicopter, and that's when I hear the loudspeaker. And you can, it's like any given scene from the movies where it's just like, Ryan Zink, this is the FBI. Come out with your hands in the air. And I had to stop for a second. I was like, what is going on? And so I was like, I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming. And sure enough, no, it wasn't a dream. My house was surrounded by like 60 FBI agents, a helicopter. They had the block shut down for like 4 blocks in every direction from my house. And, they had the dogs at the door. I'm still injured at this point. They blow the door off the hinges as I start coming to the front, and I can't move the door. And I'm trying to move the door, and they're yelling at me like, "Let's see your hands. Let me see your hands. We'll shoot. Let us see your hands." And I can't get past the door because it's in my way. So I walk outside. I get taken into custody. And they ask me, they're like, "Is there anybody else inside?" I'm like, "No, there's nobody else inside. It's just my 2 dogs." I was like, "I don't have a roommate. My girlfriend's not here. Like, nothing's going on." And they go in and they break every door in my house. I have 5 doors in that house. They broke all of them. Unlocked doors. Back door, front door, 2 bedroom doors, and a bathroom. And they flashbang my dogs. They, rifle through all my stuff. Uh, haven't confirmed it yet, but I'm pretty sure one of them took like $300 out of my wallet. I remembered having more money before I went in, and when my wallet was given back to me, it was empty. But will that ever be amended? Probably not. I've got flashbang burns on my carpet. My TV is damaged from the flashbangs hitting it. Um, there's flashbang residue all over the house. I was never presented with a warrant. They left it on the table after I was arrested. They came in, they took every electronic device in my home, and then the questioning started. They tried to open my phone with my face without my consent, went through, and they're very condescending, very overwhelming, very shock and awe presence of trying to get things. And I'm sitting here going, what did I do to deserve this? Like, why am I going through this? And it's just astonishing. And that was pretty much the worst of it until I got to the gulag in DC. Outside of a impromptu interrogation from the facility in Eden, Texas, needs to have some serious investigations done. I witnessed the warden beat a man in that facility. And then I also, at that same facility, I was interrogated by somebody who worked for the facility. And this is not government regulated facility. This is private contract, uh, federal housing facility. So it's like pay to play prison.
That's down on the other side of San Angelo.
Yeah, down on the other side of San Angelo. Something, a serious investigation needs to go into that place. I saw every drug that you could get on the street in that facility, and then the warden beating that guy, and them taking him and putting him into the shoe over a blanket. Like, I mean, anyway, I digress from that. But yeah, the impromptu interrogation. He guy was yelling at me, saying I was a terrorist. Was demanding that I tell him like what organizations I work with, like who, like like we already know that you're working with the Proud Boys and all this. I never even heard the word Proud Boy until like 10 days after January, and now I know a bunch of them. But and
Yeah, I'd never heard of them either. You
and see, and that's the thing is that until they're vilified, nobody even really knows.
Did they actually exist? I mean, is there a real group called?
I yeah,
Are they a
I've
real?
met quite a few of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and there's not a single one of them that I would consider as a level of domestic terrorism like the media says. Most of them are just normal, hardworking, American patriots that wanted their voice heard. They wanted to see, what was going to happen and to protest. And that's not to say that there weren't some things that happened on January 6th that shouldn't happen. I saw things from both sides that I disagreed
Well, you're always going to have one
with.
person in a group that does something stupid.
Yeah,
You know, that doesn't mean everybody's bad.
that's right. And that's this group flogging mentality, this shock and awe campaign that Merrick Garland and his SS officers have, come into the American people with this, and it's just not okay, because then that's when you get treatment like I got in Washington D.C. at the jail facility. They tried to kill me while I was there. And see, this is the dirty side of the DOJ that nobody gets to hear about. People that have family members that go to prison, they know that stuff like this goes on. I didn't have any idea. So I get to Washington D.C. finally. Weeks and weeks. Haven't been arraigned. My family doesn't know where I'm at half the time.
So they grabbed you out of your house,
Correct.
destroyed your house,
Yes.
throw you in jail,
Yes.
and then they're moving you around from facility to facility,
Yep.
working your way to DC.
Yes. And then I flew on Con Air, so I didn't get to fly commercial like some of the other J6 defendants. I flew from Midland, Texas, on the tarmac with a federal Con Air registry plane to somewhere in Virginia in the middle of the night where nobody knew where we were, and then I wound up in DC. I'm not even sure what day I got there. Time, everything, a blur. And the second that I get there to DC, I go through orientation. Not a single person of my orientation was from the United States of America. That's a problem. Our criminal justice system is being authorized and enforced by people that probably don't even know the full extent of our DOJ laws. So that's one of the things that I think needs to be paid attention. The second thing is that's when the abuse started, right off the bat. As soon as I'm introduced into the intake holding center, that guard that took me in from processing and intake walks over to the counter and says, "This is one of them J6ers. This one's in here for something." Immediately, I'm handed food, a moldy ham sandwich, a bag of apple juice, and a bag of water. And I'm told that I have one phone call. So I decided to call my mom and let her know, like, hey, I'm in DC. I think I called my girlfriend at some point. I think I figured out a way to make it work to where I could split up the time on it. And I was there. And that was the last they heard from me for days. Because that was the last time that I was let out of my cell. And so I get put into a cell first thing when I get there. The entire facility is dirty. It's covered in mold. And when I say covered in mold, I mean like you could wipe your finger across the walls, across the windows, across any surface besides like the sink and the toilet, the things in your cell that get used, and your finger would be completely coated in black mold. And so I am talking to them and I'm saying, like, hey, this toilet is clogged and this room is dirty. Like, can I get some cleaning supplies? Can I get something? And I'm told, no, shut the f up, turn around. like we don't care. So I'm at a few days in, like 2 days in, I have like feces on my floor, on like of myself. I have urine and feces on my floor. And I told my attorney, I'm like, hey, I need to get transfer cells or they need to bring me a plunger or something needs to happen. Because this stuff was disgusting. Like I'm literally walking in feces. I'm breathing sewer air. This is not healthy. I wish I hadn't said it. I really do. I wish I had kept my mouth shut and just dealt with it because it would have been a lot easier to deal with that than the rest of it. And it I get moved cells and they put me in there. Every single meal that I had from that point forward either had cleaner, bleach, or some kind of chemical in it, or the food was left out. But there was never a day that I had another meal except for I think one. They gave us like a turkey sandwich thing that was it was I'm not even sure that it was turkey, but it was food and it was amazing to be able to have something that actually filled you up. Everything that I had was covered in some kind of cleaning, some kind of cleaning chemical, and I think it really took a
because you asked for cleaning.
because my attorney called and they had retaliated over making me look bad, and I think for me that wasn't even the end of it yet because I was increasingly getting more sick and um so I guess we're probably about 5 6 days in at this point and I'm starting to get sick and I don't know why and that was probably part of it was that. But then I finally, there's this sergeant. I wish that I could remember his name because he was the heaven sent that I had at that facility, and he was like the only person that talked to me besides whom everybody refers to as Zip Tie Guy from January 6th. He gave me some coffee under the door while I was at the facility, and I kid you not, that was the best cup of coffee that I've ever had because it was the only relief that I had from the chemical concoctions that I was being fed. And um, so I told him, I was like, listen, dude, I was like, I haven't showered. It's been like 5 days. I was like, I need to shower. I'd like to make a phone call, like talk to some people. Is there anything that you can do to let me? I was like, I'm not trying to like get up on it, but I'm like, dude, I need to shower. Like,
You're like in solitary.
yeah, and the showers are in the middle of the pod in A, where we were all kept with the original guys. Because now they moved to C2B, and now that C2B's fixed, so the J6ers in C2B pod they went through, repainted, made the whole cell block. It looks immaculate because they have pride in where they are because they know that they're there as political prisoners, and they fixed it well because they could see the vigil that's outside and it would give them, like I guess the shred of hope that they have, and to remember that some of these guys have been in there for 3 years now, 3 years with no trial, and and no arraignment. Some of them haven't even been arraigned. They still don't have the discovery. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes on with it, and you see this, and then they move them after they get this whole thing up, and so now it's gin pop, for any swinging person that comes through there that just commits a crime, and now they're moved to an even worse facility. So maybe I don't know, maybe that's what they're doing. It's the J6 remodel crew, but I guarantee you it's going to be done right. It's going to be done with pride over there. But I finally get to shower. I get to call my family. I get to talk to them. And I still don't have a cup at this point. Like I don't have a cup. I don't have anything. I'm drinking out of, you have hot water and you have cold water, and that's it. And when I say hot water, I mean lukewarm. And you get a bag that your soap comes in, and so that's what I'm drinking. I'm drinking out of my soap bag. And I put the soap bag up underneath the sink, and I see something that falls out of the faucet, and I look at it, and I'm like, picked it up out of the bag. I'm running it through my fingers. I'm like, this is like meat. What is this? And so I'm don't think much about it. A couple days goes by. I'm getting sicker. I'm getting sicker. Like I'm like starting to throw up. Like I have all these problems. They won't let me go to medical. I can't file a grievance form. There's nothing that's available for me to do. And then another piece of it falls out. So I take my toothbrush, my little 2-inch toothbrush that they give you, so that you don't sharpen it and stab somebody. And I stick it up in the top of the faucet, and three big pieces of raw chicken come tumbling out of my drinking faucet. And that was when it set in that not only were they coming after me, but they're trying to. And um,
How did it get in there?
it was intentionally placed in there. That's exactly how it got
Before you, they put
in.
you in a
Before they
cell.
moved me into that cell. So, um, humbling experience, to say the least. I called my dad and I told him, I was like, "You have got to get me out of here. I'm not going to survive um, if you don't." And told him and said, whatever, we're doing whatever we can do to get you out, Ryan. Just sit tight and just God has a plan. Just pray and stay strong. And luckily, a couple days later, I did actually wind up getting out because they showed the video to the judge at my arraignment and pretrial release hearing, which they combined into one. Um, that they showed the video of me protecting the police officers on the east porch, and I was let out of my hell. I went in somewhere between 170 pounds and 180 pounds, and I came out of about 130.
How long were you in?
I think right at like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks, somewhere in there. It could have been shorter than that, but whenever you don't know what day it is or what time it is, I remember looking out of my cell and seeing the cemetery that's just outside of the DC facility. And I find it completely ironic that where I went to feel alive is a place of death, because that was my escape, was to look out the window. Because we didn't have any Bibles. They wouldn't give them to us. We had like, I think, 6 books to the whole pod. The whole place is full. Third grade reading level, fourth grade reading level. The only book that I had while I was in there the entire time was about a slave owner who falls in love with one of his slaves and decides to run away with her and forego his marriage. Perfect fourth grade reading um, material. And it just became so much more in in that moment of getting out. They hand you a $5 bus pass and tell you have 24 hours to get out of DC, and your nightmare. I thought it was over then. I thought like, well, this is going to be a big misunderstanding. Like, these police officers are going to they're going to tell they're going to set the record straight. They're going to tell the truth. I was wrong. My nightmare was just beginning. Just beginning.
So now you want to go back to these.
I do. I do want to go back to DC, because if they will do this to me, they will do this to your family. They will do this to everyone that you love. Every single person. They will do this to you.
So what do you think really
On January 6th, I think it was a cover up for a stolen election. I've been very open about that. I believe that there were
happened? So it changed the narrative, and everybody started focusing on that instead of why they were actually.
yeah, I do, because you can't have one without the other. You can't serve two masters. So either people were there to take over the government, or they were there to talk about a grievance. That's not to say that certain actions of certain individuals didn't affect the outcome of the day, but not everyone is guilty. Not everyone is a terrorist. You can't place everyone into this big category. Hunter Emke chose to kick out Windows. I chose to tell people to leave the police alone. And yet I'm standing in the same shoes that he's standing in. It doesn't seem right.
What happened to him?
4 months in prison, somewhere around like a $3,000 fine, and I think like 2 years of probation, and he's gone. No one
Yeah.
knows where this
So
guy
he
is.
was he was.
Yeah, and he was openly Antifa, by the way. So, there's another aspect to it, which is not being allowed. None of that evidence is admissible in the DC, along with evidence like my original paperwork that says that my actions led to the assault of multiple federal police officers and the death of a federal police officer, yet I never assaulted or killed him.
So they didn't do anything to the guy. dad had shot Ashley Babbitt.
No, Officer Byrd. There was a. They say that there was a preliminary investigation, but no, Officer Byrd has not been called into question or held accountable for his actions, even despite the fact that just before he shot her, there were six other police officers standing on the lower platform of the stairs that didn't seem to have a problem with what she was doing either. Yet he made the decision to pull the trigger on somebody who was senseless.
So, what is our government doing to resolve this?
Right now, nothing. You know,
Where's our representatives in Congress? Why aren't they doing
I've asked myself the same thing. We have I'm just going to say it. I think that we have a weak Republican Party right now that is unwilling to take action. We have Americans. This isn't a third world country that they're holding people for 3 years, not giving them the evidence that they need, and modifying a false narrative for political standing. We have political prisoners right here in America, and they're not doing anything about it. Speaker Johnson wants to blur the video footage from January 6th in an attempt to say, like, so the DOJ doesn't go after it. I've been through this. I'm living this right now. Show the footage. People are not stupid. The
it?
common misconception.
It's our country, not theirs.
Exactly. And see, and that's the thing is that
They
America,
work for us. We do not work for them.
the Constitution was not written to protect the government from people. It was made to
Exactly.
enforce policy on the government and to have a sense of accountability for when they screw up. And we have done a horrible job so far of doing that. And that's one of the other reasons that I want to run for office and to represent the people of CD19 is accountability for those who do not. And it
Yep.
has just become it's just a nightmare. We've become this huge political spending machine that neglects the real issue. We
Yep.
have payments of $5,000 on gift cards going out to illegal immigrants, and we have veterans on the street. We have veterans on the street. Back when I was a bartender here in Amarillo, I used to have a veteran that would come in and he would take out my trash for $2. That was all he wanted. He wanted $2 so he could go to the store, get a couple of like little burritos or something, and you know for what? Like, where's his health care? Where's his mental health care? Why is he still on the street? Why do we have all these people? Why is the border not closed? Why are we seeing an overwhelming amount of fentanyl coming into our system? Why are our schools talking to people saying that it's okay for a child to witness hand drawn pornography and tell them that there's not two genders? Why are we seeing things like this? Why are we allowing this to happen? It ends with me. I've been put through the ringer. I will not sit back and be quiet and sit on the sidelines and wonder what I did for my country because now I want to do it because I promise you it doesn't stop here. If this goes unchecked,
Oh,
they're gonna let it rain.
they're gonna take everything we got.
Satan and his minions are always at work. They don't have to sleep. They don't have to. They're always coordinated because it's one voice telling them it's okay for you to do this. It's okay for you to do this. We need to put God back in schools. We need to put God back in Congress, and we need to put God back in the White House where he belongs. Because the day that Barack Obama removed him from that building was the day that everything fell apart. And we see that now. We see it. And it's just like in the Bible. The repercussions of sin are coming forward now, and it's time for revival. That's exactly what this country needs. We need a revival. No one person is going to save us except for Jesus Christ. And that is the God's honest truth. That is the Bible Belt worn sermon of the ages. There is no politician, there is no man, there is no doctor, there is no one that will save us except for the blood of Christ. And if you don't know him, it's going to get rough because trust me, I know him and it's been hell. And what if I didn't? That's a greater question. What would I be looking at right now if I didn't have hope? If I didn't have, the strength of a family that's rooted and, a girlfriend that's rooted in God and his teaching. And it's not to say that we haven't struggled during this time because believe you me, I'll tell you right now, there's been some days. There's been some days when I say, God, I can't do this anymore. God, I can't do this. There's been days that I've been mad at God, but that's okay. He's God. He can handle it. And he can also handle taking back this country, and he can also root out this corruption. But we have to ask for it, and we have to serve him in order to get it done.
He'll help those who help
That's
themselves.
right. He will come to the aid of a righteous man.
So
Worry about nothing.
it's the people that have to do it.
That's right.
It's not a politician. It's not one person. It's the individual.
That's right.
They have to stand up and say enough is enough.
Yes, they do.
It's their responsibility.
Whenever
And
you
if
ask
they
God to
don't,
dig a hole, He hands you a shovel. He doesn't just make a hole appear, He hands you a shovel.
yep.
And you got to coordinate and you got to work together and you have to plan things out. And that's another reason I'm here. It's time to get some real planning going. We need to get people that are willing to take a stand and say no because I'm not on the fence. I want small government. I'm not on the fence. I want small government. No questions asked. I want term limits. No insider trading. All the things that should be in place. Like here's another example. If you serve 5 years in Congress, all of your medical expenses, everything are paid for the rest of your life. What job do regular Americans get to work where you can go work for somewhere for 5 years and everything's taken care of? Why are teachers making 30,000, 40,000, $50,000, and 50,000 is on the high end at some places. There's teachers that I know that they make $10 an hour working as substitutes. Why are they making that and a congressman's making like $240,000 a year? And why do they get to be the people that say, we're going to give ourselves a raise? We're just going to vote this in real quick. Here we go. It's all done. That ain't right. And then they can
Well,
sign our money over to Ukraine or anywhere else that it wants to go. Trillions of dollars in debt we are. And where's the accountability for that? Where was my vote? Did I get to vote and say, I think I'd like to keep my taxes here in the U.S. and build the border wall? But
they're just stripping our country.
our wealth,
They're stripping all the
they're
wealth,
taking the middle class. They're taking it from us.
and I'm sure a lot of that money going overseas is coming back to them.
Oh, it's going into Zelensky's pockets.
Well, but I mean, he's paying them under
Yeah.
the table.
And then the kickbacks and see, and that's another thing too. I don't know the full extent of what's gone on. Obviously, I'm not in Congress right now. But these are things that the American people need to know. They're not stupid. We're not stupid. You and I are not uneducated. No one that's in this room behind these cameras, the people that are watching this, we're perfectly capable of disseminating information that is put in front of us. But
But
we
we're the
need
ones
people
that
to
create
do it.
all the wealth that they're stealing.
Yes.
If it wasn't for the average person, they wouldn't have anything to steal.
Yeah.
And what they don't understand is once they do that, which we're getting close,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no more people to produce, they starve.
Yeah. And now they want
But they're not smart enough to figure that out.
like a 10% tax from the IRS. God asked for 10%. He asked for 10%. We went to war with England in the
Yeah, but he kind
1700s
of,
over 5%.
let's say he's kind of earned it.
Oh yeah, he's definitely earned it. And if you're not tithing, it
And
makes a
worth it.
difference. I'm telling you, the stress, the worry, and everything. But you're relying on God. You know, the government wants 10% out of me. I already pay 10% to God. Why do I need the government taking 10% from me whenever my vote or what I have to say about something doesn't matter anyway? My town, Lubbock, our community, has crime rates from illegal immigrants that are coming across. We have fentanyl right in our town. So does Amarillo.
Oh yeah.
And it's getting bad in our areas. And where is the taxpayer money that goes into that? Why are we not stopping this from happening with the cartels and with everything else that's pouring in? But Zelensky can,
Follow the money.
purchase yachts and stuff, through his buddies and all these oligarchs and stuff that are over there. It's not conspiracy. It's fact. Too many people are paying attention now.
Well, it's because it's all together.
Yeah.
The media. They're at a deal, a symposium where they were had different media. They had alternative media, they had independent media, they had mainstream media, and all. I'm like, wait a minute. Here's the problem. You have two types of government controlled media and non government controlled
NPR.
media. And that's it.
Yep.
So don't call yourself independent media. Don't call the government controlled media mainstream.
Right.
It's not mainstream. it's government control.
Yep.
That's what it is. We'll call it what it is and get that narrative. Yep. Because then I think if we start using the proper words, then people will get the aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
But they cover everything up and twist things around because they're very, very smart people. And they know how to manipulate people's minds.
Yes, they do.
And they do it through words.
Mm-hmm.
I see it in every headline. Just because it clicks, once it clicks, I see it
Yep.
every single story. You know exactly what they're at.
Yep. Because you can see it. You can see the narrative writing that goes
And
into it.
they slip the little lingo in every article. No evidence of election. Or
And yet we had 6 people indicted
conspiracy
today.
theory. Well, they've made these things like conspiracy theory into some evil thing. What's a conspiracy? What's a
A
theory?
question.
A conspiracy is just two people
Yeah.
discuss something. We
Right.
conspire to go eat lunch.
Yep.
It's not a negative term. But it sounds negative.
Yeah.
Use it in a theory means you haven't done anything.
Kind of like armed insurrection in January 6th, yet despite the fact that it wasn't an insurrection and nobody was armed.
Right.
Yeah. It just I agree. The way that it's
it's the
spun.
way they spin it, and nobody has the. We're just mentally lazy. We don't listen to what they're telling us. They're telling us exactly what they're doing. They're telling us they're going to steal the 24 election right now in the headlines almost every day. They're prepping the people for it. Minimum. You're saying, oh, Republicans can't win because of the abortion. But yet, what was it? Kentucky and Virginia were all the down ballot races. They all voted Republican, but they lost the very top. Well, it's because of the abortion. The
Mm-hmm.
Republicans. Like, how can that? That's just totally illogical.
Right.
It's okay for the everybody else, but not the one certain people wanted in office.
Yep.
So that tells me they're setting up
Oh yeah.
the narrative
The
that
trickle
the
theory.
Republicans going to lose the president. Trump's going to lose all over the abortion issue because Republicans want to kill their children.
Yep. And then combine that with the bad world theory, where they just tell you everything's bad all the time, and then repetition, 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 and eventually people start
Over
spitting
and
it
over and
out
over, every
like it's
story,
gospel truth.
every day, every news. It's just so obvious. I think you have to once you get it, once you see it.
Yep.
Most people don't see it because they aren't willing. They're too busy being entertained. They're not paying attention. I think that's
Yes, sir.
they're watching TV, they're watching sports. And they think politics doesn't matter because they've been told it doesn't matter. By who?
The
The media.
media.
Oh, they don't really want you to vote,
Yep.
and it's a problem.
I hear that a lot actually in my area. Well, my vote doesn't matter. It's all Republicans here. Oh yeah, it does.
Means it
It does.
matters even more. And
Every
they're not
single
Republicans.
vote
They are
matters.
liars. They are Democrat operatives in our party running for office, getting elected because they're lying to the voters. I say the people are conservative, but our politicians are liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 85% of our elected officials are left wingers, but they masquerade
Yeah.
as conservative.
Rhino, Republican in name only.
But the voters, well, the real conservatives, they mysteriously don't win election,
And now with stuff like J6, they're too afraid to speak up.
and a lot of them are intimidated.
Yep. They get intimidated by it. I'm not.
Oh, I don't want to, and I think a lot of them are intimidated by the machines.
Yep.
And why would they put their life on hold? Borrow money to run an election for any office and put themselves through that, and then if they lose and they think there's fraud, there's no way to prove they lost. They won or lost
Yeah.
because there's no ballot.
No ballot. There's no nothing. It's just, oh, it's gone.
Computer said you lost, dude. Too bad.
Yeah.
We can rerun it if you want. We can prove it because we can rerun the tape.
Yeah.
Like that's like counting counterfeit bills in the register.
Oh yeah. My dad worked on a bunch of the audits. That's the way that it is.
It's
Several
all a
states.
scam.
Hmm.
And if people don't get outraged and do something about it, uh, we've lost our. I think we've lost our country. We have a chance to get it.
I think so. I think it comes with bended knee and prayer. That's where I think we win our country back.
Prayer and but you have to obey.
Yeah.
The people have to realize you can pray all you want, but if you don't obey, he's not going to listen. So you have to pray and obey and stand
Yep.
and get to it.
Yes, sir.
And that's all it takes. And it doesn't take a lot of it. People need to stand up.
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to Laura Logan?
I have talked to Laura. I
I know
have.
she's doing a big expose on the skinny.
Yeah, she's done a great job. So I spoke to her, Diamond and Silk, Laura Loomer, Cowboy Logic. I've done a lot of programs, talking about J6, uh, in particular, and just to get my story out there, with stuff. And Laura Logan does a great job, and actually all those people do a fantastic job. Uh, we Miss Kim, everybody that has given me the opportunity to share my story and my voice, they've just been phenomenal at what they do. And even opportunities like this. Thank you, for having me on. I appreciate the fact of what you're doing, the questions that you're asking, and interviewing candidates. This is brilliant. I love this. I love this.
Well, how can people get a? You've just filed.
I have.
You haven't actually filed, but you've done your appointment of treasurer. You've
Yes.
got your website
Yes.
running. You've got your WinRed set up.
Yes.
So you can take money,
I can. Yes, I can.
and you need money.
I do.
So where do people go to send you money and support your race?
So right now, you can go to ryanzink.vote. That's RYANZINK, and then .vote. And the link is posted up on the website under the donate tab. And then also on Twitter, I have it posted on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at I toward heaven. There's no S on I. It's EYETOWARDHEAVEN. And I post a lot of content, uh, up there, and a lot of my followers are on there. And then you word of mouth, reach out to me. I'm Texas Panhandle boy. A lot of people have my number here, and um,
Well,
that's
they can
pretty
call
much
our
it.
headquarters office
Sure.
at 351-0884, 806 area code, 806-351-0884, and we can get them in touch with you.
For sure. Yeah, and I'd love to talk to anyone. I've been put through the ringer here, and so I met a lot of guys while I was incarcerated over this that probably people I would have never spoke to outside of this. So we're all in this together. There's nobody that I could turn down. There's probably things that I'll disagree with some people, but that's why we're here. That's what the conservation of speech is about. First Amendment is
Yeah, we
making
need
that
people
voice.
to disagree to come to the right conclusion.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's discussion,
That's right.
and that's what we want because different people with disparate ideas, and then you distill down to what's the best.
Yes.
And that's what a republic is.
Yep. Constitutional republic. Absolutely.
Yep. So we have a representative republic where we elect people to represent the people's interests. The problem is it puts that
Wound
around
it away from us.
to
Now
where
they
they
represent
rule.
theirs.
They
Yeah.
rule, not represent.
Absolutely.
We've got to bring them back around and let them understand
And hold them
who they work for
accountable for doing what they've done.
and hold each elected official accountable,
Absolutely.
especially at all levels.
All levels. Top down. Absolutely.
Well, Ryan, I really appreciate you coming in. I know it's getting late and you got to get back to Lubbock, but I think we'd like to probably visit with you some more sometime. And if there's any way
Absolutely.
we can help you up here in the Panhandle,
Oh
let
man,
us
I'm
know.
always down to make the drive over to Amarillo. I still have friends here, and I got a big old heart for Amarillo still. So been it was my home for a long time, and now I call Lubbock home, and I'll show up anytime.
Well, it's just kind of the same town, just a big alley between us.
Yeah, real long I-27 alley.
Yeah,
Nothing in it, man.
yeah.
That's a stretch of drive. I mean, it's growing together though. I mean,
Well, you got
there's some stuff.
Plainview, and
There's a few more things to look at in the past 10 years since I moved, from Amarillo. So that's a good thing.
yeah. Well, all right, Ryan. Well, we really appreciate it and wish you luck and win that race.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna try.
All
Thank
right,
you very much for having me on here, Dan. I really appreciate it.
no problem.